My name is Maureen Hartnett, Hartnett.
Could you tell where you presently work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
You mentioned that you've been to a number of crime scene responses. I want to ask you specifically about a response on February 2nd, 2022. Do you remember that?
May I check the date on that?
With the court's permission, please.
So I responded to a crime scene on February 1st of 2022.
My apologies. Where did you go on February 1st, 2022?
I was dispatched to the Canton Police Station in their garage area.
When you went to the Canton Police Department, did anybody else from your lab go with you?
There was a crime scene services trooper that also responded at the same time, but there was no additional crime scene responder from my unit that responded.
Did you arrive at the Canton Police Department?
Yes, I did.
Is there a garage that you were directed to?
Yes, I was.
When you arrived at the garage, which sometimes may be referred to as a Sally Port area, were there any other people there when you arrived?
There were Massachusetts State Police troopers as well as some Canton police officers.
Did you know who they were?
I did know who the Massachusetts State Police trooper was, yes.
Okay. Was Michael Proctor there?
Yes, he was.
Was Trooper Dunn there?
Yes, he was.
Was Trooper Clark there?
Yes.
You mentioned Canton Police Department officers. Do you know Lieutenant Gallagher?
Yes, I did have an interaction with Lieutenant Gallagher as well.
When you got there, did you have a chance to look at an item?
Yes.
Tell us what your focus was on. What type of item?
I was asked to examine a black Lexus SUV.
And was there a black Lexus SUV?
Yes.
As you were observing and making, analyzing the item, did you see whether anybody was taking photographs?
Yes.
When there's a person taking photographs, do you ever have any input or direct them, or do they do that totally independent of you?
After they're done doing what they're required to do, I will ask them to take specific photographs because I do not perform that function at a crime scene.
When you first arrived, did you have a chance to walk around the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you observe the vehicle from standing behind it, looking at the back of it?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is the rear of the black Lexus SUV.
Does that photograph, does it appear to be substantially accurate to what you saw that day?
Yes, it is.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw?
Yes.
May I approach again?
Yes.
I would move this into evidence, please.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 138.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show P145.
Okay.
Ms. Hartnett, is that what you saw when you arrived?
Yes, it is.
Did anything stand out to you when you first looked at the back of that Lexus?
I noticed there was some damage to the rear passenger area of the vehicle.
You can take that down, please. Did you have a chance to walk around and look at the vehicle from the driver's side of the vehicle, the left side?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Could you describe what you saw?
Yes, that is the rear passenger taillight of the vehicle.
Is that how it appeared when you first walked in that day?
Yes, it is.
You can take that down, thank you. When you examine an item like a car, do you take any type of efforts to protect from contamination?
Yes.
What do you do?
Before processing or touching any item of evidence, I'll put on gloves. I use disposable instruments whenever possible, or if I need to use reusable instruments, I will spray them with a 10% bleach solution prior to use. I also change gloves often while I'm examining a vehicle and keep my notes and my pens that I'm writing my notes with. I don't put on gloves when I touch those, and then when I go back to examining the vehicle, I will then re-put on gloves to protect the evidence.
If you see something of note, something that stands out to you, do you have any way of marking the item?
Yes, I take diagrams at the scene and note on my diagrams anything of note. And as I had said, if there's anything that I also want close-up photographs, then I will request the crime scene services trooper who's assigned to crime scene to take those photographs.
Do you ever put any type of markers on the item itself?
Yes, generally I will mark the items with either a letter or a number so that I'm able to refer back to them both in my notes, and I'm able to refer to them when I look at the photos.
When you mark different items or observations that you make, do you give a specific number to each item for to memorialize it?
Yes, I either use a lettering system or a numbering system.
And how do you memorialize it? Do you put it in writing?
Yes.
What do you do?
On my diagram, I will refer to something, for example, as letter A, and then I'll also mark that item using a marker on the item of evidence with the same letter so that I can connect and associate the photograph with my notes and anything that I collect as well.
In addition to the broken taillight that we just looked at, did you make observation of any other things? And I'm just asking generally, not asking you to specify.
Yes.
Were there other things that stood out to you?
Yes.
Did you take any swabs, any fake swabs from as far as trace for blood?
I screened for blood on various areas of the undercarriage of the vehicle.
And what was the results?
Those were negative.
What does negative mean?
It means that there was no blood present in that area, or if there was, it was below the level of detection of our test.
Did you make any observations where you saw items or marks of interest?
Yes.
I want to ask you about any observations you made of the back bumper. Was there anything significant that you saw relative to the back bumper of that vehicle?
Yes.
And share with us what you saw.
There were scratches on the bumper as well as apparent pieces of glass on the bumper.
When you saw what you believe to be pieces of glass on the back bumper, what is the process you follow?
I gave those an identifying letter. I noted those items in my diagram, and then I eventually collected those items.
How do you collect them?
I would have used either disposable tweezers or tweezers that were cleaned with a 10% bleach solution.
After you collect the items, for example, glass on the back bumper, what do you do with that?
In that moment or later on?
Take us through from the moment you have it till the end.
So I would put those pieces of glass into a glassine envelope, which are then packaged in a larger manila envelope. They are sealed and dated and initialed with my dates and initials. Eventually, when I return to the lab, those pieces are given an item number and then secured in our cold room.
Is each piece of evidence given a separate item number?
Yes.
As far as the entire case, your entire response, not the separate pieces of evidence you may find, is it assigned a particular number or a case number?
Yes, each case will get a larger case number, and then each item within that case gets an individual item number, so that item can be tracked throughout the lab.
Do you remember from your memory what the case number of this investigation as far as your response was?
Yes.
Could you share that with us?
The case number assigned to this in the laboratory information system was 22-2184.
I want to go back to the glass in the bumper. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
This is a close-up photograph of the apparent glass on the bumper of the vehicle.
Court's permission, I'd like to show P167 to the jury.
Okay.
There are 2 pointers in front of you. Would you mind pointing out for the jury what stood out to you? And Ms. Gilman, could we get a little bit of a close-up on that bumper, please?
So I can see one of the, it's a little difficult to see, but I do see one of the larger pieces of apparent glass right here. Would it be better if I use this one?
Could you? Do you mind?
So this piece here is a larger apparent piece of glass. I think that was the largest one that I saw.
And those 2 white stickers, could you tell us what those are?
This sticker, this sticker here is marking where the apparent pieces of glass are.
Is there another sticker above, or is that just
I'm
a
not
different
sure.
item?
If you could close up, I'm not sure what that is. Yes, so that is another sticker, and next to that sticker are additional pieces of glass.
Those items to the right of that picture, are those pieces of glass?
Yes, I would say that's an apparent piece of glass here, and this one.
And could we just go down to the bottom part again, please? Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that down. Did you collect what appeared to be items of glass?
Yes, I did.
Were they assigned a particular number?
Yes.
Do you know that number offhand?
I would have to refer to my notes.
With the court's permission?
Those items were given the item number 3-3.
Did you focus on the right rear side of the vehicle beyond the broken taillight?
Yes.
Did you notice any damage, any scratches to the right quarter panel or the right side of that Lexus?
Yes, I did. I noticed some scratches as well as a dent in the rear door in that same area.
Let's start with the scratches first. When you notice scratches, is there a way you marked them?
Yes, I would have given them a letter.
And did you do that?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a photograph. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes.
What does it depict?
It is a close-up photograph of one of the scratches on the right rear area of the vehicle.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show the jury P-172.
Okay.
Could we close up just a little more, Ms. Gilman? Thank you. Starting at the bottom, what is that, ma'am?
That is a close-up of the scratches that I noted in that area.
And could you zoom out again, please, Ms. Gilman? Is that on the back bumper or the right quarter panel?
I believe it's on the right bumper. It's a little difficult to make out in that photo.
Could you zoom in again and move up just a little higher, Ms. Gilman? Thank you. You have another sticker on the top?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is an apparent hair that I noted in that area.
So that doesn't designate a scratch. That's something entirely separate and different.
That's something different, correct?
We'll get to that later. I just wanted to point out that it's not a scratch. Now, you mentioned that you saw a scratch. Was it a singular scratch or a number of scratches? Could you zoom in, please, Ms. Gilman?
It was a couple of scratches.
Is there a number you designate if it's not a physical item, if it's something like a scratch, or are the designations just for actual physical items?
I use the designation for both observations as well as physical items.
Would there be a number for the scratches?
Yes. Well, there's a letter, yes.
Do you know what that letter is?
Yes, I believe it's D.
D. I'm showing you another photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
That is damage that I noted on the rear trunk door of the vehicle.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw?
Yes.
When you say damage, what type of damage did you notice?
There was some scratches as well as a dent.
You told us that you saw both dent and scratches. Starting with the scratches with the pointer on the TV to your right, could you show us where you saw further scratches?
So the scratches are up above, and then down here there's chipped paint and a dent.
And where is the dent in relation to the scratches?
Just below it.
Could we zoom in a little more if we could, Ms. Gilman, please? Can you see in this photograph the dent that you saw?
Yes, I was referring to this area here as a dent in my observations.
Thank you. You can take that down, please. You mentioned a hair. I'm going to ask you some questions. How many pieces of hair did you find attached to that Lexus?
I found one apparent piece of hair on the Lexus.
Was there a designation number for the hair that you found?
Yes.
Do you remember what that number is?
I used the letter A for that particular item.
Did you say letter A, ma'am?
Yes, correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, I do.
And what's in that photograph?
This is a photograph of the apparent piece of hair I noted on the rear area.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw that day?
Yes.
Turn to the second photograph, please. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is an additional photo of the apparent hair on the vehicle.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show P-173 to the jury. If you could get in as close as possible, Ms. Gilman. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And can you share with us what you saw?
This is a close-up photo of the apparent piece of hair on the rear of the vehicle.
What did you do when you saw that, what you thought to be a piece of hair?
I marked it with the tape. I designated it as letter A, and then I asked the crime scene services trooper to take a photograph of it.
Did you try to preserve it in any way?
Yes, I did.
Tell us how you preserved that apparent piece of hair.
I collected that hair with either disposable tweezers or tweezers that had been bleached with a 10% bleach solution. I put them in a glassine envelope and then put them in a larger manila envelope. In a larger manila envelope.
What happens to that larger manila envelope?
It is returned back to the lab. It is submitted under the same case number and given its own individual item number.
Did you bring it personally back to the lab?
Yes, I did.
When you brought it back to the lab, do you remember where you brought it when you got back to the lab?
After it was entered into the computer system, I then sealed it, I initialed and dated it, and then I would transfer it to the crime scene response holding area in our cold storage room.
When you pass it along, is it to protect it in evidence, or is it for a purpose of further testing?
At that point, it's just to store it in evidence, and then it will make its way into whatever unit needs the piece of evidence first.
And you did all that with that piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to show the second photograph that you identified. I believe it's P165. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What do you recognize that to be?
That's an additional photo of the apparent piece of hair on the rear of the vehicle.
In the two different photos, are they taken from the exact same angle?
I believe they're taken from slightly different angles.
And the hair, could you point that out with the pointer of the hair that you found?
Yes. This here is the apparent hair.
Thank you. You can take that down, please. Regarding the damage to the broken taillight, did you have any interest in maintaining that piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to collect the entire taillight housing.
Why did you want to do that?
If there were pieces from the taillight that could be later matched to the taillight, I needed the entire housing to be processed at the lab.
Did you make efforts to try to maintain or remove or preserve that entire taillight housing?
Yes, I did.
What's a taillight housing?
Excuse me?
What is a taillight housing?
I'm referring to the entire piece, including the back, the glass covering, the light bulb inside. So it's in the entire unit.
Did you attempt to remove that entire unit yourself?
I did.
Were you successful?
No, I was not.
So what did you do?
A Canton police officer that was in the Sally Port at the time offered to help disconnect it with some tools that he had.
Have you ever seen whether there's video that memorialized that entire event?
Yes, there is.
And have you ever watched that video?
Yes, I did.
Does that video show you attempting to remove the housing and then receiving assistance from somebody?
Yes.
When that housing was removed, what happened to it?
I then placed it in a box, I believe I placed it in a paper bag in a box, and then once I brought it back to the lab, I added additional cushion with additional paper to protect it from any further damage.
Were you going to keep that housing, or were you going to put that in evidence for other reasons?
That was put into evidence storage for the time being.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is a photograph I took of the taillight housing back at the laboratory upon examination.
Is that with the court's permission, I'd show photograph P187 to the jury, please.
Okay.
Could you tell us what that is?
That is a photo that I took of the taillight housing at the laboratory.
And that's after it's obviously removed from the vehicle.
Yes, that's correct.
And that was packaged and preserved?
Yes.
You could take that down, please. Do you have the actual item, the actual housing with you?
I believe it is here, yes.
With the court's permission, I'd ask the witness to be able to open the item, show it to the jury, and then I would move it into evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. If you would you please remove the item from that box?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Do you have gloves available?
I brought gloves, yes.
You could hold that so the jury can see it. If you could hold it up high, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you could return that to the box. I would move this item into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
That's the only item in that box?
There are additional items in that box as
Oh,
well.
I only want to introduce that one item.
Okay, so that bag, you need to take that bag out.
There are also other items in that bag.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes, why don't you come on over? Actually, Paul, the lunch is here? All right, jurors, the lunch isn't here, so this seems like a good time to take a break.